Perfect. So maybe quickly before we start, so I think that we would be happy to introduce ourselves. So my name is Thais. I'm 25 years old and I'm in the Master in Economics here at the University of Gallen. Originally French parts, so that's why I have an accent. And now it has been 1 year that I joined Start Global. Greta, would you like to follow?
Sure. I'm also a Master of Economics at the University of Gallen. I studied before in Italy, in Bologna, business and economics. Moved to St. Gallen and I joined the ROSE framework in January last year.
Great, perfect. So basically to kick it off, today we would like to talk to you about sustainability and also a little bit about what we do. So it's throughout the presentation really like concrete points that we would like to review about our perspective on sustainability and how business can be sustainable, and also then sharing a bit how we basically have put this into a framework that can be used for the assessment of technologies of startups. And to kick it off, or maybe just before that, for us that we're super to any questions. Really feel free also if now the course is being online at university, we're very used to this kind of formats that we're all in a call and some people just turn on their mic and just ask a question. So feel free to jump in. It's also interesting like this, we believe. And the other point is that sustainability, as you will see, is a huge topic. It's also a very normative topic, and we believe that we don't know it all, or we are very aware that we don't know it all. So at any point, if you have other suggestions or other, feel free to also challenge a little bit our perspective, and just be aware that we don't have perfect answers to everything. We are just trying to get with the topic. Great. So before I dive into sustainability and ROSE more in details, I would love to talk to you about START, because START is at the heart of this initiative. Obviously, Start Global, so it's an organization from the University of St. Gallen. It has been created in 1996 and all about entrepreneurship and technology. And what has been our flagship activity is the Start Summit. So it's a 3,000 participant event that we organize here in St. Gallen. And the idea is really to foster entrepreneurship technology for some kind of like a greater good, at least in the sense of saying like, we believe that entrepreneurs are the ones that can find a solution to society's challenges. And now I just quickly like to share a bit about our different projects. So in this area of technology, we obviously have a Start Hack. So it's a hacking competition happening in the days before or during the summit, the Start Summit, as I just mentioned. And we have the Start Fellowship, which is a new program also last year, where we have students coming from Colombia and Romania here to St. Gallen to build startups and then go back to their own countries to really expand their business. And then there is Start ROSE, and it actually stems from this entire network that we have built on really fostering technology, and we realized that we were kind of missing really a true understanding of what it means. What are we actually doing with those technologies? What are we doing with fostering startups? And what happens also when all those startups are then growing and becoming so important, and not to mention huge startups like Google, Facebook, but also smaller ones that really reshaped the way that the world is looking. So this is what created ROSE, which stands for Return on Society and Environment. And from there, I would like to give it over to Greta to dive a little bit deeper into this. Oh, sorry. Just one thing that I wanted to show before that is just like the trailer from the Start Summit, where I think you can also really capture well what our approach to technology and entrepreneurship is at the moment. So I hope you can all hear the sound, and I would like to share the video now with you.
We have experienced a year of extreme challenges and constant change. Now, we need innovative ideas more than ever. For that, we need a new generation of entrepreneurs. But today's challenges are too big for anyone to solve on their own. This is why collaboration and exchange has never been more important. Although coming together is harder than ever, entrepreneurs. Combining the best of both worlds, we are uniting thought leaders in St. Gallen, Helsinki, Boston, San Francisco, Rio de Janeiro, Shanghai, and bringing them to you on our virtual platform. Access no matter where you are. Learn from the best and get inspired. Will you change tomorrow? 22nd through 27th March 2021.
Great.
We have experienced a year of extreme.
Voilà. I need you, Kata.
Thank you. We love so much this video. No, I think, yeah, so this is start. So it's about fostering technology and entrepreneurship. So why technology for us is so important is that because we think that they can actually solve society challenges and changing the world of tomorrow. And here in this slide, we just gather some data on how innovation and technology influence our life and influence our future. And that's why we want to foster technology and support them with also a framework for sustainability. So next slide, please. As said, there is no framework tailored to startup. And why it doesn't exist? Because need to have something really them because of their disruptive business models. Also, they are also in a high time pressure and they cannot spend 1 month on filling some information about their practices and so on. Also because they don't have most of the time defined processes. And also they are continuously growing, changing internal practices. And so the framework has to be really tailored to their needs. So that's what we are trying to do with Rose. Next slide. Before introducing you to the concept of our framework, we would like to ask you, very in an informal way, what is sustainability to you, and what is sustainability in general? So a perspective that you might have on sustainability. Feel free to unmute or write it in the chat.
Well, from what I've learned, there's 3 parts of sustainability. It's the economic, the ecological, and the social sustainability. So like the 3 pillars, and then obviously everything else is below that.
Yeah, great answer. We also really align on this view on sustainability that has to encompass environment, but also society and of course, profitability. Someone else? No.
I think it's also really about, like, from my point of view, it's also something that is closely linked to equality, so equal access to resources and opportunities. So I would maybe that goes hand in hand with what Johannes has just said, but maybe to mention that as well.
Of course, it's a great insight. Thank you, Marcus. Does someone else want to bring something, or super shy? Okay, so if we move forward, for us, sustainability is this idea of living throughout time. So what you have to do to live in the years is that you have to understand where you are. So as Gabriel said, sustainability is learning how to be part of an ecosystem where we live value and not destroying value for other components of our system. So it's really a question that businesses have to pose themselves, and we have to reason it also how we get in this ecosystem and how we can create the most value for us, also not destroying value for other people. And as Marcus said, is this equal access to resources, equal access to sustainability, to opportunities, sorry. And it completely falls in this slide. And concretely for businesses, as Johannes mentioned, is this trying to be financially, socially, and environmental sustainable. So businesses have to understand and take care of all of these three dimensions. But sometimes when we started to analyze this topic of sustainability and how it can be implemented in companies, we realized that sometimes it was just related on the external impact or on the external environment. Instead, for us, sustainability firstly starts internally. So when a company wants to engage in more sustainable practices, it has to look at how it behaves internally. So how it deals with the workforce, it deals with suppliers, and how it produces internally things, and how it develops its service. And then once it has understood this big part of sustainability, look at when the product or service is out there, what does this product do to the life of people, how does it influence the life of people, how does it influence the environment around it. And so this also complements sustainability. So internally and externally impact are very important and always goes hand in hand. And then so it was a process of understanding all of this, and then we came up with the creation of this ROSE framework. We also partner with the EPFL to have this academic research layer behind our project, so that we ensure that we really cover every dimension possible, and it's conceptualized by the next generation, so by students and people that embrace this continuous change and technology. The purpose of the framework is really not to teach something to the startups, but really to spark this discussion internally, and to make them aware of what could be practices that they could engage in, and try to have this discussion embedded in the company. And then from there, as they are aware of this, they can set goals and then they can improve. But we really want to give this guidance for them. So here it's our framework, and we always say that it's divided into pillars, because as I said before, we firstly look at the operational practices, so the internal practice of the company. And we do this by having a self-assessment, so a questionnaire that the company can fill, and it's based on ESG, which are environment, society, and governance criteria. And here the startup really answer the questions, and it's really just to understand and have a snapshot of the internal practices. They are completely free to say, I don't know how much emission I have, I don't know how I like the division of my workforce, so which percentage of women or men. And then we have improvement goals. So when the company recognizes maybe that there are some practices that are not very clarified, or just like they are not engaging in kind of ameliorating these aspects, they set improvement goals that are really this them, and we have an exchange with the startup, but we don't teach them how to improve their company. We just give a feedback. And then the external impact, as I said, it's really trying to understand what is the product and service doing outside of the world. So how is it impacting the life of people and the nature and environment? Usually it's really like an analysis of the industry where the company is operating and how the company is actually impacting the industry and the society individually. And we try to quantify this impact, even if it's very difficult. But we look at the company and the SDGs in general to really frame their impact. So next slide. So our mantra can be composed of these three aspects, that is becoming aware, set goal, implement them, and repeat. So it's really a process of always trying to understand what is the problem, or what the company is actually doing, and trying to always get better at this. Then I think we're now going a little bit depth with the ROSE framework, but I will not keep it long. So this is like how it looks like, our questionnaire. As I said, this is has been developed in collaboration with EPFL. And the questionnaire follows a dynamic logic, means that it's really tailored also to the answer that the company gives, and it hides some questions or shows some questions according to how the company answered. Also for the environmental part, we partner with the LFCA, that Leaders for Climate Action, which is an initiative of more than 600 executives and companies to really foster and sparkle this discussion about climate action. Next, we have an example, for example, of improvement goals, and they are, as you can see here, we ask the company to define the current status, what is the goal that they want, how to achieve it. So they actually define action steps, and we redo this and we reassess this in 1 year. And then we have the impact valuation. The impact valuation, as I said, is really trying to understand what is the impact of the service or the product on the external world. And we use the framework of Sustainable Development Goals. I don't know if you know this, but it's from UN. It's very broad and it's usually set for countries, but it helps us to kind of frame the impact area. And then we try to quantify it by having indicators and target units. I don't know if this was fast. Let me know if something was not clear. You can feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I will give it back to Thais.
Great, thank you very much. So yeah, I would like to take it from there, maybe just to round it up on the impact. So our stake on it is simply that we live in a profit-oriented economy. That's a fact. Maybe it will change one day, but for now it's like this. And therefore, the question for us is, how do we make sure that we give as much as we take from the description from Gabrielle, or in other words, that we can do business in the best way for both society and the environment. And now, since today we really want to look into sustainability and what it means, we would like to dive a bit more deep into the key aspects that we have identified. So this is a non-exclusive list, but basically it's all the topics that we touch upon when we do the questionnaire with the startups. And we have then chosen a couple of them that we want to dive into more deeply in the next slides. But first, I would like to quickly explain you basically what all of those are. So in environment, we have structured it between emissions and resource use. In the emissions, the idea is always measure it. Do you reduce it, and how? And then do you offset what you are not able to reduce? And for resource use, we touch upon topics like the energy that the company are using, the water supply, the recycling programs in the company, and the product packaging. Just feel free to interrupt me if you have any question at any point. For society, then we have 3 main topics. So the workforce, the product responsibility, and the community around the company. So workforce, obviously we look into gender equality, diversity, physical and mental health. This is also becoming a very important topic at the moment. Safety in the workplace, this is for companies that have a production facility, and then extra hours, how they are compensated, or if they are even being recorded somehow. Then employee training and development. For the second point, product responsibility, so we have their customer expectations. So how does the company make sure that they know actually how the customers are reacting to their product, and also that they're meeting the promise that they're selling, basically. So is there any guarantees put in place, ratings that are disclosed, certifications that the company can purchase, etc. And then we also have GDPR and everything that has to do with data security at this point. The third point is in community. So here there are 2 main points. One is on suppliers. So how do you select your suppliers? How do you handle the relationship towards them? How do you pressure them with prices, but also do you assess them in anyhow with regards to sustainable practices as well? And then the role that startups play in the industry. This is really something that often founders underestimate, how much they can actually also send a message to the industry and to the suppliers, but also to their concurrent, in terms of saying, by the way, Melanie, I don't see if there are comments coming in the chat, so feel free to unmute if there is anything that is relevant. Just let me know, yeah. And then the last point is the civic engagement. So to which extent do you engage with your community around the company? Like, do you also engage in research? Do you lend facilities or any kind of pro bono activities that the startups would have? And the last point is around governance. So for that, for us, it's super important to also financials, make sure that this is really being also included in those topics and know what we are talking about. Then obviously wages, and it's look into also how interns are being compensated. Then equity and stock repartition. This includes between employees and founders, but also like the gender repartition of the stock, which is often very, very striking how not diverse the repartition is. And then missions and visions, the values and the identity of the company. And then the strategic vision and how is this basically embedded into the KPIs. And finally, how do employees feel responsible and do they know how much freedom they have? And finally, the employee satisfaction. Voilà. Is there any question at this point before we dive into a couple of selected topics? No? Okay.
One question, I have one question concerning society, because you said the GDPR data security. So basically, does it mean that products that are in line with GDPR are then products that also meet the sustainability standards? Is that what is that the idea here?
Yeah, exactly. So we consider it as a key topic that you make sure that you are GDPR compliant or that you basically protect the data of your customer to consider your company sustainable. And this is on the one hand just because you respect your customers, but on the other hand also simply because if there would be a data breach or if it would come out as a scandal, then on the financial side you also completely like gonna be in troubles. So it's both sides. And this is probably a point for most of the points out here is that they're linked on the one hand with like pure respect and some kind of like normative approach to how companies should work. But in the end, they also totally reflect with more safety and less risk in how you do business.
Cool, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so the topics that we have chosen are the following. So the first one is the whole topic around GHG, so greenhouse gases emissions, climate action, and offsetting, because that's something that's really growing at the moment in the scene. And for us, it's super important to take a stand on this topic. So we stand behind the idea of measuring, so become aware of how much emissions your business is actually creating, then take concrete action to reduce. And by this, we have learned that if those actions are not a little bit annoying, if they're not actually a little bit changing the way you do your business, it's probably not enough. So this is really the second step and the most important one, and also where we really try to coach the founders. And then the third one is offsetting, simply because it makes you aware of the real price of things and because it's better than nothing. But in our eyes, it's super clear that if you do offsetting without taking concrete actions, it's totally meaningless. And when it comes to actually looking a little bit more concretely in what it means to reduce, so as Greta mentioned before, we're really partnering with the Leaders for Climate Action. You can Google them. They have a super informative website, and they have a guide. I've just put the picture here of a concrete guide on what kind of actions you can take. This is the one for companies, and there is also the one for individuals. And it touches upon the entire energy supplier choice, also recycling in the office, and then the traveling expenses on the company level and so on. Great. Then the second point we'd like to discuss today is gender equality. I think this is really something we have discovered. I mean, for us as a team, it was already like one of the most important topics when we started working on that, but we working with founders, and now we had quite several startups that actually decided on their own to put goals on this one, especially in the tech industry. I think it's nothing new to say that yeah, probably the gender diversity is still lacking. So we have really identified two main points that can change the game somehow. And the first one is about how to recruit. So how to make sure that you have diverse talents entering your company. And then it's also about how to retain them. So about how to build an inclusive working environment. And for the first point, so recruiting, the main thing we should be aware is biases, because that's what is probably killing the entire process at the moment. We are working super closely with Eglantine Jam. She's a total expert on that. She has even a cabinet on female recruitment, and she really shared with us a lot of insights on how a process can be biased, especially on the side of the recruiter. But concretely, what are the points that we would propose is, first of all, to have an inclusive job posting. So this is really something you can put in the job posting, that you're open to both men and women. And then a non-discrimination disclaimer. This is something that most companies are doing now, but for startups, it's not always a priority. Then be very aware about the wording, because there are some words that are more appealing to men than to women, just as a bias, again, of like how we are being raised and how we identify to words. And then one concrete trick is to also not close the round of applications until you have an equal share of applicants. So this allows to at least start the process with equal numbers. And then obviously to do some blind screening and training on biases. This would include basically getting your team trained by externals. But from our experiences, it's what works the best, because we all believe that we are not biased. But in the end, that's exactly the point of biases. We need to become aware by other people of what we are not seeing, so that we can take this in account. And this includes, for example, when screening CVs, being aware of what other backgrounds can be and what a hole in a career typically linked to motherhood can also be. And that is also a huge leadership experience if you think about it. So those are concrete points that are very important in our eyes. And then make sure to have a diverse recruitment committee. We tend to like people that look like us or do the same things than us. So if you want to recruit women, to make sure to also have women in your recruitment committee. And then have some standardized questions. There are thousands of research that show that there are sometimes more tough questions being asked to women, or more like don't lose questions when men are like often asked, how are you planning on winning? This is also linked to female founders getting the funding rounds or so. So it's a super strong point actually that at least I would not naturally think about. So this is about recruitment. And then the second point is really about building an inclusive working environment. And this is also something working with Eglantine that we learned that in a lot of companies, they manage to hire women, but then they also leave, especially when it becomes tighter with getting kids and in this golden age of just after the 30s. So it's actually super important to create this environment that is really open. Oh, Aaron, do you want to say something? I think you should just unmute.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. You have
Yes.
one of the first points where you mentioned not closing the rounds till you have an equal share of applicants. So that's across gender, ethnicity. How do you do that? And then how can you make it work practically if, for example, you have I can speak from my experience here in Poland, there's probably maybe 20% of the current students in IT enrolled in IT courses in university would be female at this moment in time, maybe 25%.
Yeah.
So then that's a hard thing to achieve, to get an equal proportion of applicants.
For sure. I mean, there is no secret, but what we mean by this, that you can also probably do some targeted events for the recruitment. So a lot of companies also go on campus and have targeted recruitment event for women. And I think, at least for me as a woman, it's hard for me to think that I will be recruited because I'm a woman, but that recruiters take special care to make sure that I join a recruitment process, and that once I'm in there, then I'm selected because I'm the best candidate. This is something that is much more acceptable in my eyes. So it's really this first step of getting the right applicants, so that then you can select them on an equal basis afterwards. So yeah, I would really push the marketing, the reach out, make sure that the job posting are also super inclusive and that they are even targeted towards women. And as I said, the wording can really be a game changer also there.
No, it does work. And even one of the companies I work with here in Krakow, they have like, I think 60% women in development and design. So you can make it work, but I'm just curious how you can do it, how everybody can do it.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? All right.
There is one,
yeah.
guys. Could you please indicate the name of the expert you're collaborating with in the field of women recruiting?
Yes, she's on the next slide, so I'll just take this out right after. No, it's perfect.
Yeah, and I answered, but exactly I said there is, like, in the next slide, there is the name and the company name.
Okay, perfect. The second point then for us is really building an inclusive working environment, as said before. And in this context, we have selected the points of offering full working hours for parents. This, like, just having in mind that there is a time to get the kids at the creche, and then you have to get them out of the creche again around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, but then there might be some time to work again in the evening or early morning. So being really, really inclusive with these kind of ideas. And then build a culture that values parenthood. And by this, we mean that it's not only about accepting that women have a motherhood leave or that they have to make sure they have time to take care of the kids, but also allowing fathers, because then it has a repercussion on the entire family and probably another workplace. So that's super important to be fully aware of. And then establish a process for harassment and debriefing, including psychological support. So be clear about how it works and also about the rule of the games. So this is something, if you do recruitment, and especially when startups are growing fast and recruiting a lot of people, it's still super crucial to simply mention it when people are being recruited, that this doesn't happen here. This is a workplace and there is no place for a flirt or any kind of not adapted behavior. So yeah, those are our main points. And then obviously raising awareness. So making this a topic, making this something that's in the company you talk about, that comes up in the all hands, etc. Yeah, this would be the main points we would suggest. Is there any question at this point? Okay, so as said, we'll just go to the quote of Eglantine, and this is also her name. So if you're not doing anything special to ensure gender equality in your organization, you can be 100% sure that you don't. And this, to be honest, is also something we're facing at start, so ourselves. It's also something we need to work on, and I think there is no size for any organization that doesn't need to look into that. Good, we would come to our last point. And just let me know if you have any question. So the last point is really employee fulfillment. The idea behind this point, and something that is bringing up, especially in startups that are composed of a lot of young people, is that people nowadays are just not looking for a paycheck. They're looking for a purpose. They're looking for a place to learn things. And when you're a startup, you need to have a team that is really, really striving, but that you also offer something to them on the other hand. So for that, we have recognized that communication, transparency, and feedback are the heart of a striving team. And for this, we would concretely suggest that anytime you recruit a new person, that you have a team and a one-on-one expectation setting with the direct manager to make sure that you also are able to really understand what the person that you just recruited is looking for in this company, and that you can have this in mind while you're working with them, and really, really making sure that it's also part of their own development and their own performance indicators. So this is one point. The second point is about feedback. That's also something that we are working a lot on in START. So in our organization with 75 people, and what we have put in place and what we have seen is really part of the best practices out there now in the world. We have 3 different types of feedbacks, and all of them on a rhythm of 6 to 8 weeks to ensure that you have enough time to work on things in between. And one is on the team level, so that within a team you have a team feedback so that everybody can to other people. Then one-on-one with a team leader, so that's also super important and should go both ways. And then a feedback in the all hands, so the entire organization, depending how big it is, but a startup that has 30 people, 5 people, or even up to 70 people, it's still possible to make breakout rooms and then really have open feedback to also see what can foster the culture more and what are the main points for the team. So this would be the 3 points for feedback, and then really pay attention to words. So we strongly recommend building a culture of precise and empathetic communication, and this just doesn't drop from the moon. It's not something that is easy at all. And this again comes a little bit to this point about the biases that we had before for gender. we strongly recommend having experts coming in for such training and making sure that we can really put this as one of the points that where people are being trained, basically. And the last one goes a bit hand in hand with that, but it's more for people to choose on their own. So propose training, we all want to grow. And this comes back to the fulfillment of the employee, really making sure that you offer not just productive work, but also just the possibility for people to learn something at the workplace for themselves. Is there any question at this point? Okay, so we're very soon coming to the end. This is for us, as Gerda said before, our mantra. So sustainability, it's super hard, it's super complex, it takes a lot of time, and there are so many different things you can do. So therefore, we strongly recommend that we first start with assessing yourself, because that's just when you know where you stand, and then set goals that are smart to you, that make sense for your business, where you're standing, and that are achievable. And you set maybe 3, then you implement them, and once you have done this, you repeat the process. And we cannot fix everything at once, so it's just really important to set those kind of like targets. From there, we just wanted to share again our vision with you. So we strive for a world where entrepreneurial success is synonymous with both financial return as well as social and environmental profitability. And we're super glad that you took the time to discuss or to hear a bit our perspective today. Maybe as a last information, those are the people we work with, as mentioned before. So we're already working with 3 VCs, onboarding another venture capital firm. And when we say that we work with venture capital firms, it means that they are actually implementing this in their portfolio companies and in their new investments to make sure, as before, that yes, profit-driven company exists, but that we just make sure that they work out in the best way. And here is Gabrielle Orter, who is the person who really advises us on the sustainability level and gave us the definition, and Dr. Eglantine Jamet for the gender part. Voilà. This was it. We would be super glad to also have you join at the Start Summit, because we will have an entire track on sustainability. So if you found this interesting and you would also like to connect a little bit with our network, our experts, they will be there. The Start Summit is online this year, but that's even more practicability. It can be like today, you just jump on a call for your lunch and learn something new. So I think it's really a chance, and we'll be very happy to see you there. Voilà. Thank you so much for your attention, and please let's go into the Q&A if you have any questions.
Thank you also from my side.
Thank you very much. This was super insightful. I already got like some private questions, so maybe the people can now ask them directly to Greta and Thais. I will start with the first one, and the other one can think about others. So you said you're working with companies such as like this investment funds, and do you also work with startups itself? And if yes, how can I, for example, as a co-founder, how can I reach out to you and just like make sure that you also make an assessment? Are there any costs or stuff, like what is involved in how, if you would assess my startup?
Yes, so we're at the beginning, I think, of this, because for now we have worked mostly with venture capital firms. The idea being that it's much more like easy or to institutionalize something like this when you have the relationship with the investment manager, because they really allow the founders to take the time, and then they also push them to really monitor this on a yearly basis. Obviously, we would be more than happy to propose this for startups, and if there is any startup that would like to reach out to us and do the process with us, we would do it for sure. I mean, the more people doing this, the better. What's just important to really understand it, as said, there is this repeat thing, so it's not a one-time thing, it's on a yearly basis, it has to be happening. And we're doing this like, we're working a lot next to our studies, so it's just super important that people we work with take this seriously. But yeah, for now, there is no cost for startups. We have a membership fee for VCs, but the startups are in the package, so it's not the idea of charging startups. Yeah. I hope this answered.
I think there is a question in the chat that says like, would it possible to be part of the Rose initiative as expert? I don't know if...
Thank you so much for the interest. I don't know who wrote this. I think we would be super happy to look into such a proposition. The easiest is probably if that person, because I don't know the name, but just if you can write us an email after with also what kind of bring it. Thank you. With what kind of expertise or so, we're happy to have a call and then we can sit together. For now, just to answer also, we have super specific streams of where we need experts and how they're actually collaborating with us. So that's quite important for us there. Thank you, Alexia. Good. Any other questions?
Yeah, hello. Can I actually ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, and first of all, thank you for your presentation. It's really cool. I really liked it. Yeah, so I've heard that you've incorporated some sort of academic elements in the Rose framework and the overall operation of the whole startup. And can you explain a bit more how you, like, first of all, what sort of academic research have you incorporated in there, and how does it help you in achieving, you know, yeah, basically?
Sure. So we have been working now with the EPFL for a year, more or less, and we even hired a PhD who is really working on us to build like this assessment and make sure that every question is on top of what it should be. So I think there are 2 points why we needed academic research there. On one hand, is just to be sure that we're at the top of the knowledge of what exists in terms of sustainability practices, and that we have the backup. We can explain for every question that we have in the questionnaire why they're there, how they have been proven by other research that they're relevant, and also why the practices that are proposed in the different options are relevant. So this is one point. And the other point is also that when you build a questionnaire, you're actually introducing huge biases in the way that you ask questions. So you can really, really turn the people to feel bad when they answer a certain question if you put it in a certain way. So we wanted to make sure that this is as neutral and as scientific as possible. And this is also why we have done work with them. So we have one PhD student, so her name is Farzaneh, and we have been working with her now for about 6 months. And on top of that, we work together with Christina, who is a postdoc, so working a lot also from her experience. And then finally, the vice president for the chair of innovation. So it's the head of their lab is also the one that gives the final feedback, and with whom we had a lot of exchanges as well. Then when it comes to actually which documents, so on the academic side we're looking into, there has been tons, because there are so many frameworks, there are so many researches that has been done on all the different areas. And also it's such a broad topic between, if you think about it, the environmental topic is such a scientific or classic thing where you look into pure water emissions, gases topics, and then you go into employee fulfillment and you pass through the impact on community and so on. So yeah, there has been a lot of different work.
If I can add, also I think it's very important for us to have this research layer, because in the end our goal is also to look at how sustainability actually influence the financial growth. So also having this link, this academic link between sustainability and financial growth. So that's the only way that we can do it, is like having someone that researched this and through time also look at the data and write about it, because I mean, I'm not in the position to do it. And I think this is super important, because if we want to bring a change and also shift the focus on how sustainability can actually empower startups to actually have an amazing financial growth and amazing financial profitability, this is the only way to do it. So back it up with research.
All right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. Well, if you don't mind, that naturally brings me to my second very quick question. So as we all know, startups are very, dynamic in nature. I personally have met founders who basically, I don't know, he suggested making a product, I don't know, 2 days ago, then he scrapped it and he thought of another product to, to launch. If startups are that dynamic, how can you, ensure that the plans or concrete actions of, taking care of especially environmental sustainability is actually, in the long run, implemented, because they're always changing, if you get my question.
That's a very fair question. So I think on the one hand, we're already working with VC-backed startups. So they don't have this kind of from one day to the 5th day. Usually they already have some sales, and I mean, some of them we worked with, they are supposed to start production next year. But what's very, and also we have structured basically the goals in a way and set for 1 year. It's very short term, and it fits basically your short-term reality, and then in 3 years. And every year you do the same. So you again set up goals for in 1 year and in 3 years. And therefore we believe that this is the solution to capturing this dynamic, that basically the reality is changing all the time. And obviously then if goals are not being met, we can also understand it's very much case by case. Also, we take a lot of time to talk with others, and then we can also understand why this didn't happen.
And we also try to make sure that this is really like embedded in their strategy. So it's not just they are doing a favor to us to put to this goal, but that they are taking this sustainability mindset and implementing them in every decision they may want to take. So it starts with the goal, but then it proceeds with like having ideas, develop projects, including this, and having in mind that this attention towards society and environment.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. Yeah, thanks a lot. That's very informative and useful, actually. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Hi everyone. It's about certification. Do you offer some kind of certification, something they can put on their website and something that is visible for us customers?
So this is something we're working on. It has been a topic that we discussed a lot, because as we said, like for us, it's a process. You never stop with sustainability, and we were very reluctant to the idea of giving to someone a certification that they're kind of sustainable as of. But what we have premise that we found is basically to give the people the chance to put on their website or put on LinkedIn the fact that they have joined the ROSE process and that they are committing to constantly improving on their sustainable practices. So this is what we're delivering at the moment. Yes.